Hi, my name is Seth. I'm an engineer here at Formlabs, and I'm going to talk a little bit today about how to recover from debris-related failures in your Form 4 or your Form 4L. So the SLA 3D printing process is pretty sensitive, and if there are any hard pieces of cured resin or other sort of debris in your tank other than the part that's adhered to your build platform, that can cause a whole host of problems. We do a bunch of things on board on the printer to sense if there is debris in the tank or if there are failures that appear to be the result of debris. And at the end of the print, if you've had a print failure that is the result of debris or we've sensed debris without a failure, we will tell you that on the UI and give you some recommendations for how to solve that problem. So what we're going to talk about today is 3 different types of debris failures you might see in your tank and how to handle each one of those failures. So you come up to your printer and you see a warning on the screen that says there might be debris in your tank and you should clean out your tank. So you can either do this in the printer or on a desktop. We're going to do it on the desk here because it's easier to see. You come up to your tank and you look at it and you don't see anything. But just because you don't see any debris does not mean that there is not debris in the tank. It can be very small, that's still a problem. And if it's sunk to the bottom, you wouldn't be able to see it. So this may feel a little bit weird, but the best way to find out if you have debris that's hard to see inside of your tank is putting on a pair of gloves and feeling around for it. So you're going to take out the mixer. You're going to check the mixer actually, see if there's any hard pieces of cured resin in it. In this one, I don't see any, but sometimes it can get trapped in these little holes, and that's a problem as well because if it comes out in a print, it can cause a problem. So put the mixer to the side, it looks good. And now we're going to put our hands into the resin and see if we can find any debris. And what really matters here is that you really thoroughly search every surface because these pieces can be small and even just moving your hand around can move the debris. So I'm going to start in one corner and I'm going to sort of move my hand up and down the tank, and I'm feeling for any sort of hard piece of material in the tank, either in the center, on the film, or around the edges. Because once your print starts, the debris can get moved around from where it is, so even if it's on the edge to begin, it might move into the center. I think I feel something here. Yeah, okay. So I feel a hard piece of debris. I'm going to pick it up, just with my glove, and you can see it here. It looks like a piece of a support that broke off. This can come into the tank for any number of reasons. It could have come from a previous failure or stuck to a build platform that you didn't wash closely enough. But I'm going to take it out. I'm going to put it on the side. But just because I found a single piece of debris does not mean it's the only piece in the tank. So it's really important that even if you found one, you kind of make sure that you thoroughly look through the whole tank. I'm going to go back one more time. Do really thorough search here, including all the edges. And I found another small piece of debris that I'm going to put to the side here. This is a much smaller support tip, but even though this is much smaller, it can still cause a big problem. One final search through the tank, and when I'm really confident there's no other hard cured pieces of resin, I'm going to call it good. Get as much of this resin back in the tank as I can so I can print with it instead of throwing it out. And then I'm going to call this tank good and I'm going to put it back in the printer for my next print. So another type of debris failure that you might encounter is what we refer to as a pancake. That's when your part stops adhering to the build platform and starts adhering to the tank. What you'll see in this scenario, sort of a large flat piece of your print in the tank that is stuck to the film. So I already have a pancake in here that I'm going to show you. This is a Form 4L tank, but all the advice here applies to the Form 4 and the Form 4L as well. So let's take off the top here. And similarly to the last example, you look at this tank and you might not see anything, and that's because the pancake is underneath the resin and it's stuck to the film. So again, I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to put it into the tank. And remember, I don't really know what's in here right now, so I'm going to be really thorough. Move my hand up and down and look for any small piece of debris. I'm not finding any small pieces so far, but suddenly when I get to the middle, I feel a large flat piece. That's the pancake I was referring to earlier. And you can see it's stuck to the tank, and it's pretty large. I'm talking sort of this big, but in general, it'll be about the size of your print because it's stuck to the tank instead of the build platform. So once I've finished moving my hand through the rest of the tank to make sure there are not also small pieces of debris, which I'll try to pick out. In this case, there aren't any. So I'm going to take this tank and I'm going to put it back into the printer to run a cleaning sheet. In your case, the tank probably is still already in the printer. So that's done. It's the done button. Now I'm going to take the tank back out. You can also do this inside the printer if you want, but for this video it's going to be easier to see if I do it on the table. Now that you've printed your cleaning sheet, it's time to remove it from the tank. This is pretty easy, but it's a step that you want to be careful with because you can damage your tank if you do it incorrectly. So first I'm going to remove the mixer. Then I'm going to use this included scraper, and the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to start from the corner, and I'm going to very gently get this edge underneath the corner of the printed cleaning sheet. And what you want to be really careful with here is that you don't use the corners of this or the flat side for that matter, and gouge too far into the tank. This will come up really easily, so it feels hard at all. Take a second and use your finger to try to find where the corner of the cleaning sheet is, because you really don't want to damage your tank film. So take this tool, come in gently at the corner, and move in to the center, and I can feel a little bit of resistance as I get under the corner of the cleaning sheet, and then I'll see that it's coming up. I'm going to use my hand, put this back to the side. Once you get a corner up, it's really easy. You can just peel it away. And you see this is the size of the build area. And then you want to get back as much resin as you can into your tank. And once that's done, you just throw this out, and it has your pancake cured onto it and no longer in the tank. So the final type of scenario that you might run into is when there's a lot of debris in your tank. Not a single pancake, not one small piece, but lots of stuff. In that scenario, unfortunately, you're gonna have to filter all the resin out of your tank, and we're gonna walk through how to do that today. So here's a Form 4 tank, and when you look at it, you can see there's a bunch of debris inside of it, some big pieces, some small pieces, more than I'm gonna be able to take out by hand, and enough that I'm worried some of it might be outside of the area that a cleaning sheet would capture. So in this scenario, we're gonna use a paint filter to take the resin out, run it through the filter, and capture all of those pieces of debris. So the first step is to take out the mixer, put it to the side. Then you want to remove the wear strips. The wear strips can get debris caught underneath them. So that's the first step. We're going to use the same scraper here. We're going to gently find the edge of the wear strip, get underneath it. So now that you've removed the wear strips, it's time to filter the resin out of the tank. I'm gonna move the filter to the center here. Make sure you have a cup underneath to catch the resin. I'm gonna take the tank, and I'm gonna start to slowly pour the resin into the filter. Filter should be big enough that it can hold most of the resin, but I'm gonna do it slowly here so that I don't overflow the filter. And really the first step here is to get most of the resin out. So once most of the resin is out, take a second here. There's still a thin film of resin left in the tank along with a bunch of debris. I'm gonna hold the tank. I'm gonna take our scraper again. So now I'm gonna gently use my scraper to get every last little bit of resin at the bottom of the tank here, and out of the tank and into the filter. Cured resin stuck to the film, you wanna get that off as well. Really make sure you pour it all in. And the very last step I'm going to do is I'm going to put the scraper down. I'm going to use my finger, just run along the edge. The goal here is really to make sure that you get every single drop of resin out of the tank, because sometimes debris can hide in resin and you don't see it. One last check. Make sure there's no resin, no debris. I'm going to put my tank back down. I'm gonna let the rest of the resin filter through the filter. And what will happen is all the debris will be up here, and the resin that comes out of the bottom will be free of debris and ready to print again. Great, so now that you filtered your resin, you're gonna put it back into the tank, but first you need to reinstall the wear strips. So we're gonna do that. Got my wear strips over here, and I'm gonna put them back into the tank. Make sure they're fully clipped into place, so they should lie flat along the film. You should be able to pull them out. And so now you want to install the second wear strip. Same process, they're identical, so you don't have to make sure one is on one side and one is on the other. They can both go on each side of the tank. Once it's clipped in along the edges, make sure that it's lying flat and firmly locked into place. Great, so now that you have both of your wear strips installed, you're gonna take your filtered resin out of this cup and you're gonna pour it right back into the tank. And from there, you'll be able to print. Yeah, so this tank now has no debris in it, and I should have no issues on further prints. As a note, if it's helpful in reinstalling the wear strips, you need to take the 3 notches that are in the center and slide them underneath the 3 tabs in the center, and then the 2 notches at the edge hook over the tabs on the edges of the tank. Print failures caused by debris can be really frustrating, especially when they happen over and over again because you had trouble getting debris out of your tank. Hopefully using some of the techniques that we've covered in this video, you'll be able to successfully remove debris from your tank. But in general, if you tried some of the earlier techniques, they haven't worked, at the end of the day, filtering your tank is a very reliable way to remove all debris. So if you're having continued debris failures, that should be sort of the silver bullet in solving them. But if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to Formlabs support.